Against the Current is sponsored in part by ServPro of Pulaski and Laurel counties. When fire or water damage takes over your life, trust the team in green at ServPro to help you make it like it never even happened. They provide 24/7 service when you need it most. Give the local office a call at 606-877-2160 or online at servpro-pulaski-laurel-counties.com. Franchises are independently owned and operated. Today I'm joined by Jeremy Taylor. Jeremy is originally from Central Kentucky, where he used to be a teacher and a coach, but now he's an inspirational speaker, leadership trainer, and personal development coach. He has a passion for meeting people where they're at, encouraging them to stay positive, and help them grow through life. His first love was basketball, second love was popcorn, but the love of his life now is his beautiful wife, Jayla, and together they both love Jesus and their adorable 2-year-old son, Miles. Won't be long before you're able to mix those loves together, a basketball, popcorn, and your family. I know once the pandemic's over, at least, I know I cannot go to a basketball game, especially high school basketball, and not get a bag of popcorn. Of course, now with 3 boys, now it's going to have to be multiple bags of popcorn because they'll out-eat me on that part.
Yeah, going to a basketball game now for you is it's a big investment for sure. But
I bring my own basketball team with me, just about.
Yeah, straight up starting 5, Sheridan starting 5. Adam, thanks so much for the opportunity to be here, man. I'm excited to have a conversation with you, and I know that your focus with this podcast is to highlight folks in our local community, and man, it's an honor to be one of those folks. And so thanks again, and really excited about what's taking place here with Against the Current podcast.
Absolutely. Glad you could come on. And for those that are listening and not watching this episode, you're really missing out because the Christmas vibe coming through this background here is, the fireplace is lit, the Christmas trees are decked out, man. It is prime spirit right there. I like it.
I just got lucky, Adam, because my wife is a legit elf. Like, she celebrates Christmas on a level that most people don't. She would like it for it to be Christmas year round in here in the Taylor household. And
nice.
so swapping back and forth with the home office downstairs and up here, and then with Miles right now. So I get a chance to rock it out upstairs. So it is a nice little festive backdrop, but make no mistake about it, we might get an interruption here with the with the baby monitor. So it's all good.
It's all right. We can have him on as a special guest. I saw him decked out in his reindeer outfit the other day. That was awesome.
Yeah, fun times. Trying to make the most of this time. It's crazy situation, pandemic, man. It's got us all going a little crazy on some levels, and so just trying to have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into that probably, I'm sure, a little bit more. Kind of what I like to do, Jeremy, is I like to do a little bit of rapid fire questions, kind of get the juices flowing a little bit, and see where you stand on some very highly debated topics and some controversial issues. So we'll go ahead and dive into that. You may have seen on social media, I'm a big breakfast enthusiast. I love breakfast, especially Saturday mornings. That's my thing. So first question, are you team pancake or are you team waffle?
I am team pancake through and through, my friend.
There you
go. I have seen those breakfast Saturdays that you host, and I'll be honest with you, my mouth is watered a time or two. But
hey, I have an open kitchen policy. Pancakes are always made and coffee's always hot. So anytime.
I can dig it. Yes, sir.
So another little bit of a controversial topic that's come up with that is, are you chocolate chips or fruit or something in your pancakes or something other kind of delicacy, or are you plain Jane?
I can go with chocolate chips from time to time, but if I'm going to go with a pancake, then I don't add any fruit, because if I'm going to do pancakes, then I'm already leaning toward not so healthy, right? So typically a plain Jane. I think it's hard to mess up a good pancake.
I'm right there with you. Would you consider yourself a morning person or a night owl?
A little bit of both, if that makes sense. Traditionally a night owl, but because I could stay up late, and I can hang with the best of them. And once I get past like a 9:30, 10, man, it's like I could just coast to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yep. But no matter what happens, no matter how late I stay up, I'm always ready to rock and roll when it comes 5:30, 6 a.m. Like, it's just so.
I'm right there with you. My wife's not so much a morning person. She may get on to me for saying that, but me, once my eyes are open, especially if I get that first cup of coffee, it's game on.
Yeah, ready to rock.
Last few questions here. What's maybe been the best book, I guess, and or podcast that you've read lately, listened to lately, that impacted you?
Man, a couple of podcasts just off the top of my head. I love Bob Goff. I love how he's a storyteller, and he just has this natural vibe of being able to drop personal growth and faith related pearls by way of just having casual conversations and telling stories. So I've listened to a little bit of Bob Goff lately. And from a book perspective, goodness gracious, so many off top of my head to name, but one that really sits well on my heart right now is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I read that actually about a year ago. I've revisited a couple times, and it's a phenomenal book that I think really smacks some people around as it relates to our American culture and the pace that we live.
Seems like it may have been an ideal book too to read pre-pandemic because it kind of got ahead and got you prepared.
Yeah, I believe so.
Last question here: love to win or hate to lose?
Oh man, I definitely got to say hate to lose. I've never been the best loser on the planet. Obviously, growing and developing through that, taking your lumps, you learn that you learn more from losing than you do from winning. But I would definitely say I hate to lose more than I love to win. So sure.
Nice. Well, Jeremy, I've given a high level view kind of who you are, what you do, but for listeners that don't know Jeremy Taylor, help fill them in a little bit about you, about your journey, about what all you do now.
Yeah, thank you for asking, Adam. Speaker, trainer, and coach. And I started out my path as a public educator. And so I've always had this passion for encouraging people and teaching, coaching, training. And so as a public educator and a basketball coach, and a short stint with volleyball, but we can't talk about that because trust me when I tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. But it was one of those situations where he's young, he's not married, he doesn't have kids, he's not tenured. He'll coach the volleyball team,
exactly.
Right? if he wants a paycheck. Yep. So that was my path. And then, I like to share this story as I transition into working from home and starting a business was two things. One, I was bitten by the network marketing bug, and I got excited about that. And I'm not afraid to say that because it's a business model that I grew very passionate about, got excited about. It was my first taste of really learning how to generate income other than, I guess you'd say, trading time for dollars. And neither one is good or bad or right or wrong. It's just I didn't know any differently than what I was doing previously. And so learning that, I got excited about that. And then also, I remember a conversation that I had with a student one time, and like you and myself and many other people, kind of frustrated about school and why do I have to be here? Why do I have to learn this stuff? But she said something that I'll never forget. She said, I don't know why I have to do all this stuff and take all these classes, meet all these requirements and graduate if all I'm going to do is go home once I graduate, sit on the couch and draw a check for the rest of my life. And that just, it broke my heart. And it really reminded me in that moment that I would much rather talk about personal growth and value and success and pursuing your passion and using the gifts that God has given you to add value to the world than I would talk, I'd much rather talk about that than social studies and core content and curriculum. And so that was kind of one of those things that when I transitioned out of teaching and coaching, I realized that I want to build people up that way. So I started getting invited to speak to classrooms and sports teams and whatnot. And that just kind of organically grew, Adam, over time to speaking to an entire student body, to a faculty and staff, to a business. And then from there, I just decided in 2014, it was time to just go ahead and pull the plug and launch the business. And Taylor Leadership Development was born at that point in time. And I guess the public speaking career started. And so whether it be workshops with an organization or a conference keynote, virtual presentation, because we've seen several of those in 2020. That's what I do. That's my vibe. And really my passion is just helping people connect, connect their purpose with their work and being intentional about what they do, growing at work, growing in life. Because there's a lot of people that are just kind of going through the motions. And I realize that for many of those people, it's because they're not being intentional about what they're doing. And alongside that, they don't really see that who they're becoming in the process is more valuable than the work that they actually do, because that informs the work they do. So that's really it in a nutshell. That's really that in a nutshell. I just like to tell people that I encourage folks, and just very fortunate that I've been able to work with a lot of different organizations in doing so.
Man, that gut punch from that student, I know that definitely, I'm sure at least in a light bulb off in your head, like you mentioned, to kind of get things going. In 2014, when you made that switch, I mean, how did you? Obviously, you've got the stability, I guess, maybe for lack of a better term, of the trading time for dollars. So that's there. There's a certain comfort to that.
Sure.
What was your decision making process? I guess when you said, okay, look, this is what I feel like I'm being called to do. This is what I need to do. I'm going to step away from teaching.
Well, to be very transparent, looking back and trying to let people know exactly how I felt, where I was at, what I did well, what I didn't do well. The truth of the matter is that I felt like there was a little bit of a calling there, an inspiration to teach, coach, and train, but just not in the public education sector. But then there was also a kind of a selfish and egotistical component of I liked what I was doing, didn't necessarily like what I was getting paid to do it. And then kind of getting steeped into the network marketing culture that isn't as good as some of the culture that hopefully some people are exposed to. And so I kind of got wrapped up in that mindset of I don't need a job, right?
Yeah.
And looking back on that, being immature, being a little green at the time, not realizing like how unattractive that verbiage and that persona is about network marketing. So there was a combination of emotions that were involved. But when I made that decision, I made that decision because I felt like if I didn't draw a line, then I wasn't going to take action. I think that was the main thing. And so as I was building my network marketing business and generating a little extra income, that gave me a little bit of a cushion to step out.
Sure.
But hindsight being 2020, financially, I didn't handle it very well at all, truth be told. But once I had made that decision, now I have to manage that decision. Now I got to go out. I got to grow the business. I got to network with people. I got to keep sharing the message. I got to keep showing up. It just really drove me to go out and do the best I can to make it happen and try to create something that other people would say, you know what, this is a valuable product. And a lot of lumps, a lot of not getting it right, and still learning through a lot of growing pains as a business owner. But I think that was the main thing, making that decision and saying, okay, here it is. And now you have to manage that decision. So let's go out and do it.
Yeah. Like I said, too, I mean, especially sometimes when you get factors like that, you talked about financially, maybe not the best decision, but that can also be a quick motivator too, to make sure you're getting off your tail and getting it knocked out. But I think that speaks to your maturity and to your, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess maybe just awareness, just self-awareness of realizing, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm being called to do. I've got to draw a line right here if I'm ever going to do it. And I've got to be willing to make that jump, but then also being aware to be able to look back and say, hey, I didn't do this right, this right, or this right, but I don't care to own up to that and say, hey, I didn't do these things right, but here's what I've learned from it because of it.
Yeah.
I think that's big time.
Yeah. And I agree with you totally. And I appreciate those sentiments. And something else also, just from a personal conviction standpoint, I was talking to kids, talking to them about, using the gifts that they've been given to, add value to the world, pursuing your dreams, working on those things. And I felt like while I was teaching and preaching that to my students, I kind of felt that conviction of I'm not really walking that out right now, right? If I was really doing what I felt like I could or should be doing, I would be doing something different. And so I felt like, there was some integrity there. There was a character issue in I got to show these kids what that looks like if I really want them to buy into what I'm trying to sell them, essentially. Sure. And so that also was a motivating factor as well. And the crazy thing is I feel like I earned a lot more respect from my students and my players when I did make that decision, because they saw Coach Taylor, what they call me. They saw me step out and take a risk and try to do something different,
Yeah, I like that. Looking over your website, your tagline says, helping people grow at work and in life. I see the passion, obviously, just in this first 10, 15 minutes we have here, but why are you so passionate about this endeavor?
I read some stats a long time ago that said upwards of 90,000 hours will be spent at work in a lifetime, like a third of your life, right? Now, granted, that's not everyone, because not everyone has the same occupation, and some people work from home and some people have more flexible hours. But this particular case study, it was just showing the gravity and how much time we invest in our work, which then kind of ties into this idea of we identify ourselves so much by the work we do, right? If you think about conversations that we typically have a lot of times when you introduce yourself, when you meet someone new, and there's my wife trying to sneak in the background here.
not quite ninja level, but she did all right.
Is we, you meet someone new and you ask them a very prominent question, what do you do? Well, what do people mean by that? What kind of work you do? And so that also tied into another alarming statistic that upwards of 70, 80% of people are dissatisfied, in their current workplace. Yeah. All that to be said, I started speaking and, on the stage that I speak at now in schools because that was my network. So when I stepped out of the classroom, I had teachers and coaches asking me to come talk to their class or come talk to their sports team. But as I continued to grow and as I got a little older, right, I eventually kind of aged out of that cool guy talking to the students, right? Yeah. And I started to realize that with those work components that I just shared, there are a lot of people showing up every day, Adam, that are uninspired, going through the motions, right? Doing the same thing tomorrow that they did yesterday, no closer to their goals, wandering around aimlessly. And I just wanted people to see, and I feel compelled to remind people that you have the ability to make a positive difference every single day in your home, at work, at school, in the team, in the community, and just helping people get back to connecting to their why for doing what they're doing, right? Understanding that every day at work, even if you're not doing work that you love for a season of your life, you can still treat people a particular way and add value to the organization. So all that to be said, I just, man, it breaks my heart seeing people just going through the motions, right? And so I show up sometimes for training at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and people are kind of like, man, why is this dude so jacked up from the floor up excited? And it's just because I realize that every conversation, every day, you have the opportunity to make someone's day. You have the ability to make someone feel important. You have the ability to be light and salt in your community, at work. And I just want people to know that and believe that. And then that inspiration also to do this is, much of it, comes from my faith and knowing that I'm not defined by my circumstances. I'm defined by my Creator and my relationship with Jesus. And with that, I have the ability to be an example of Him wherever I go. So I know I kind of went in a few different directions here, but I'm just passionate, Adam, about helping people grow and get better. And the reason why I think a lot of people don't grow and get better is because a lot of people don't see their value.
No, man, knocked it out of the park. I loved every bit of that. That was spot on. And that was one of the several reasons that I wanted to have you on the podcast is December. I mean, as you know, it's a popular time that a lot of people, doesn't matter what industry you're in. I mean, you see this too. When you saw, I'll talk about the stats that you looked up at and really dove into. But a lot of people are trying to make maybe either that end of year push because maybe they aren't satisfied with themselves, with the goals that they set up for themselves for the year long, or I guess it could be a little bit both. They're also saying, okay, now I'm going to work on setting my goals. I'm going to work on setting my plans for 2021 to try and make next year go much better. Obviously, we're in a pandemic, have been in it for what's going to end up being about 75% of the calendar year. And so for a lot of people, it simply didn't go as planned. And most years you can look back and say, okay, well, this didn't go right for me in this year because I didn't do more of X. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, there was a pandemic, so that makes that a little bit more tricky. But I'm an eternal optimist. My wife, it wears her out. And we have obviously news of a vaccine coming. Stock market's doing good based on that. So 2021 it's starting to at least look more promising, which you can't get much less promising than 2020 was. But and I know this is kind of a long way of saying all this, but I think it speaks to your stated mission of helping people see their value, recognize their potential, and then live out their existence and really hone in on their why and really push for that. So how do you think people should be approaching this goal setting, maybe time of year, and maybe what do they need to be doing to motivate themselves to make that best version of themselves?
Yeah. And I like, you use the word motivation there. And a lot of times when it comes to the work that I do, people consider me a motivational speaker.
Sure.
And sometimes I kind of push back on that and I say, listen, I would consider myself or people who do this kind of work more of an inspirational speaker, because in my personal definition, inspiration is something that can be shared between people. I think at the end of the day, motivation is something that's intrinsic, right? Only Adam really knows what motivates him, right? I can't motivate Adam to go do anything. There's something that gets Adam up in the morning. There's something that gets people, out of bed, into the car. Sometimes for some people, for a season, it's just to pay the bills, right? But for other people, they operate with a higher purpose, and they see their work is more than just a job, more than a paycheck. And so some people are a little bit more motivated, and it could be, your family, or it could be a situation that you're working toward, right? That really keeps your feet to the fire. But when it comes to motivation and working toward those goals, one of the first things that I recommend for folks, whether it be if I'm delivering a keynote or a workshop, or if it's a one-on-one coaching situation, it's let's think about why you started doing what you're doing. Right? See, a lot of times people lose their why, and if they forget their why, then they lose their way. But also on the flip side, I feel like if people remember, if their why is strong enough, then they can manage almost anyhow, right? If that makes sense. If the why is strong enough, you're able to accomplish a lot of things that you wouldn't think that you could get done. And so I think that people have to, and here's the problem with all of this, right? The problem with all of this is that in order to really think through this, to assess your situation, formulate a plan, and move forward, it requires you getting still, and it requires you getting quiet, and it requires you slowing down long enough to actually do this. Think a little bit. And you know what we're not good at doing? We're not good at thinking, right?
Yep.
Because for a lot of people, because of the American culture that we live in, the fast pace, got to accumulate more, got to accomplish more, got to keep up with so-and-so, the comparison trap that we're in, this need to have more, do more, be more, achieve more in order to feel important, which is a lie, right? that people, they're just kind of going on to the next thing, doing the next thing, and they don't slow down long enough to really think about who they want to become, where they want to go, what's really important. Am I really moving in a direction that I need to move in that's healthy, that's serving me and my family well, and the people around me? Because when people get quiet, the silence can be louder than the noise for some folks, right? Yeah. Having to face the reality of where they're at. And so I think, one, remembering why you're doing what you're doing. Second thing is I think going into a year, where you wanted to set new goals, or you wanted to set some New Year's resolutions, if you will, I would encourage people to simplify, right? Keep it simple, because I once heard a leader say this, that you can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction, right? You can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. And I think in order to simplify and move in a positive direction, you got to think about, okay, what's one thing that I can work on right now? What's one area of my life that I can focus on? Because we're really good at packing the plate down. We're really good at saying, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. New year, new me, baby. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to save some money. I'm going to work on this. All right. I'm going to read more books. And then because we've put so much on our plate, we never really get around to doing much of anything. Right. Yep. And then we find ourselves in the same situation that we were in last year, living the same year over and over again, never really making much change. So I would encourage people to think about what your reason why is. Make sure you have a strong why. Simplify. Right? Whatever it is, whatever your goal is, whatever habit you want to create. And then lastly, I would encourage people to take it one day at a time. Just win the day. You can't win Friday on Monday. You can't win the entire week, right? In just a couple of short hours. Just focus on making that day your masterpiece. And I realize when you say that, you talked about being an eternal optimist. I'm kind of the same way, right? I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I'm expectant. People think, well, this guy just has this pie in the sky kind of idea about being positive, and it's all. No, when I talk about winning the day is some days winning the day might be much different than winning the day on another day, right? Oh, yeah. Winning the day on a given day just might mean getting out of bed that day, right? and then winning the day on another day may mean knocking out several sales calls.
Sure.
Or hitting the gym and knocking out a 2 a day that day at the gym. I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
But so that's just kind of a simple framework that I have. And, I could dissect, all of those and kind of break down those points, but just to keep things light and simple for folks, I think you need to remember your why. You need to keep it simple, right? Simple is inviting, it's refreshing, it brings some clarity, and then just take it one day at a time, because at the end of the day, that's all we have, right?
And I think a couple things there you talked about motivation and people being motivated, and then also talking about what's winning the day. I think those two can very much go hand in hand, and people forget that is what motivates Jeremy may not be what motivates Adam, but what also is winning the day for Jeremy isn't going to be winning the day for Adam. So it's trying to keep a focus, maybe like you said, be still and don't look at what so-and-so or your competitor, whatever it may be, posted on social media as their maybe big win. Focus on what's going to help you win and what's going to help motivate you through that. Something I heard, it kind of goes along with your plan of keeping it simple recently that I really liked, was detaching yourself from the outcome.
Yes.
And I think that goes tremendously with, like what you said, you can't change your, and I'm gonna botch this, but you said you can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. And I think that goes the same with detaching yourself from the outcome, is that if, like, obviously we talked about over and over, is you're going to take your lumps in any kind of business you're in, any kind of role you're in. And if you can just keep your focus on your direction and keep going, marching down that direction, you can set yourself up better to hit, maybe it's hitting these goals. You did forget to say hashtag New Year, New Me when you said that, though, so I'll forgive you on that one. But I just think that's important too, is to try and keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, and two other things I would add there that came up as you were framing that up. Where one, growth requires change, and change isn't easy. Like we have to truly get comfortable with being uncomfortable and realizing that the only constant in life is change, right? But sadly, everybody wants things to change as long as everything stays the same, right? So growth requires change, and change is a process. That's the number two thing. Growth requires change, and then two, change is a process. Great things take time, and we have to be okay with that, right? We can't expect to knock it out of the park. And if we want to start a new venture, you just launched this podcast. There's a learning curve, right? You're learning, just like myself in hosting my podcast. I'm learning some ins and outs of how to effectively communicate with people on this platform, and how to get content out, how to attract more listeners and bring on guests that can add value to people. Like, people have to understand that there is a process involved, but we live in such an instant gratification saturated society that we want it now. And that's just not how life works.
Yep. You're spot on that. What would be, especially talking about somebody maybe starting a new business, what would be maybe the best piece of advice maybe you've received, or maybe it's something just that stuck with you that you've applied to your own practice, to your own business, for somebody that's either starting their own business, trying to change their direction, like you mentioned? How would you, I guess, what would you inspire them with?
I think because, we talked about social media, you mentioned the comparison trap of looking at what other people are doing and whatnot. I would highly encourage people, if you're starting something new, find some people, one, who've been where you want to go, and ask them how to get there, right? Like help set yourself up for success by learning from people who've already made some mistakes that maybe can help you. Now, you're going to have to make your own mistakes. You're going to have your own growing pains. But, one thing that people aren't good at doing is asking for help, right? And asking for other people's time and attention and advice. And what I've learned about successful people, some people who've poured into me and helped me grow, is truly genuine and authentically successful people, servant leaders. Guess what they want to do? They want to help other people, right? And so they're waiting for someone to ask them, hey, can I ask you some questions? Can I buy you some coffee? Can we set up a Zoom? Right? They want to help you. They want to throw the rope back. So that's one thing. But then also with that comparison trap that that we mentioned a second ago, just stay in your lane. Focus on what you got to do. Quit looking left, quit looking right, quit worrying about what everyone else is doing. Understand that you don't have their assignment. They don't have your assignment. They're not you. You're not them. You are you for a reason. God has put certain things on your heart. He's given you certain talents. And just focus on what you got to do. So ask for mentorship and learn from other people who've been where you've been. Two would be, stay in your lane. Don't let the comparison trap wear you down. And then three, I guess what I would say is just keep your head up, right?
Yeah.
Life is already challenging enough. Set aside a pandemic, right? There are going to be challenges. I think where you win and I think where you really grow is in those moments from opportunity to opportunity when you work really hard, right? And you don't realize that you're preparing yourself for that next opportunity, or when you're in that valley and you don't know when the next win is going to come, but you're working hard anyway because you operate with that belief that my best days are just ahead. So I would just say, just keep your head up and just have a don't give up attitude. Just keep working.
Yep, I like that a lot. And I think just kind of a testament to you talking about reaching out to somebody that has been where you want to be or is right now where you want to be. Now, maybe if it's the Kardashians, maybe you don't reach out to help for them. Nothing against them, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. But I know just in my own insurance industry, there has not been a single time where I've reached out to someone that maybe it's another state, another town, whatever it may be, that I see them doing something like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe I need to look at something, that I haven't asked them for help and they haven't just graciously said, basically, what can I do to help? And whether it's offering time on a Zoom call, just exchanging back and forth on DMs, whatever it may be. So, I think you're exactly right. For somebody that's looking for help, find someone, whether it's in your industry, whether it's just somebody that you appreciate, look up to, reach out to them to help, because I think you're exactly right on that, is people want to help.
Yeah. Despite what mainstream media sells us and what we see on social media, the division and the dissension, at the end of the day, there are good people in this world. And I feel like if
100%.
we turn off the tube, we get off Facebook, get off Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever people are on, and go out and have a conversation with someone, you'd find out that we're more alike than we are different. And there are a lot more people in this world that really want to help other people win and celebrate your success.
You're exactly right on that. Well, Jeremy, I want to be respectful of your time, especially because I know Miles could probably hop up any minute too, so we don't want to have any downfall there. If someone is interested in working with you, either through coaching or bringing you in to speak to maybe their organization, their business, their school, whatever it may be, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, of course, with social media being the way it is today, and the opportunity to connect with anyone at any time, folks are more than welcome to contact me on any of my socials. I believe my Facebook page has become even more of a one-stop shop than anything. But you can always hit my website as well, jeremyataylor.com. And if it's specifically for a request to work together, then that direct link is jeremyataylor.com/speaking request. And you could drop some information there, and that shoots right to my inbox and gives me an opportunity to follow up with you. But with that being said, I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today, Adam, and I hope our conversation has added value to some folks.
Absolutely, and I think it will. A couple more things here I just want to make sure we get. So I'm going to be sure to put that stuff in the show notes. Sure. I'll put the link to your website and your Facebook in there as well. I'd say, like you said, you're pretty active on social media, so I'd say I'll be sure to list your accounts in there too. So if anybody just wants to follow along on your journey, wants to keep getting those positive vibes, those positive messages, and truly be inspired, they can keep up with you. Is there anything else that you maybe want our listeners to know?
No, just something that really that's been heavy on my heart for quite some time is just to remind people that who you are is more important than what you do, right? Who you are is more important than what you do. What I mean by that is because people identify themselves so much by their work, right? And they wear that hat, and naturally they feel as if they are. And there's nothing wrong with becoming one with the work that you do, and that there being a seamless relationship there. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem, I think, for a lot of people is they get wrapped up in what you said earlier, Adam, allowing themselves to identify so much and internalize their results. Therefore, if they're hanging their hat on that, it's not sustainable, right? You are more than the work that you do, because who you are determines how you do what you do, no matter what you do, right? No matter what industry you're in, what work you do, what your passion is, what your calling is. And so I just try to remind people of that. And one last thing is, through the work that I do, a lot of times people feel like, from a public speaking perspective, that someone's just talking at people or telling them what to do. And really, more so than not, it's not telling you what to think or how to think, but getting people to think. Because a lot of times people already know what to do. They already know what to do. It's just facilitating a conversation and encouraging people to make the next best decision and start moving in the direction that they know they should go in. And so I appreciate the opportunity to get to do the work that I do. It's a blessing. I absolutely love being around people. That's why the first time I was able to get back in front of a group after that first shut-in order, I think I literally scared some people half to death. I was like, man, you have no idea how excited I am to see y'all today.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started hugging people, and people were like, COVID, right? So either way, that would be it. Just remember, who you are is more important than what you do. Don't just go through life, grow through life, and everybody can encourage somebody. So go out and be a blessing in the spaces that you're in, where you live, work, play, and worship. And that's it, Adam. I appreciate you, brother.
Man, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I think the listeners will too. I think there's a lot to take away from the message you brought, and just a straight fire, honestly, that you brought to this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I thank everyone else too. And again, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you taking the time to do this, because I know you've got obviously your own responsibilities, your own duties, your own podcast, everything you're doing too. So to take time out to step in on this episode, I do really appreciate that.
Well, you're the kind of person, Adam, when I get a text from you or a Facebook message or Instagram message, you're the kind of guy, man, because of the work you do, who you are, what you stand for, what you represent. I definitely always want to make time for you. So thank you for your friendship, your leadership in our community. And thank you for this podcast. I know it's going to add a ton of value to folks. So continued success, my friend.